Right, it's 6 o'clock on the dot. It is a Wednesday, the 26th of April, Lulu. How are you doing? Especially after kutfola lusuku lokudvonsa umoya sukwini ngelayitolo njengoba besatsonga ukuthi bekuyi-National Flag Day. A lot of developments happened ke lapha even la kaNgwane kulolo suku. Kanti sibonile nengwenyama Lulu ukuthi itolo isukile lapha kaNgwane yalibhekisa khona even le Republic of Zimbabwe kuyawungenela umhlangano we-Transforming Africa Summit weminyaka wa-2023. Siyatfola ke ukuthi kukhona lokusha lesitawukhona ukuthi emakhaya sibavetele kona ngalolu hambo layo ngwenyama ekutheni sebafikile vele khona eZimbabwe. Lulu, ngabe unjani namhla ekuseni?
Nasiphilile Sifiso, sibonga kakhulu ukuthi sivukile namhla ekuseni and sibonga umdali ukuthi sikhonile ukuvuka namhla ekuseni, and thank you so much for joining us today. Sithemba ukuthi nikhonile ukuphumula elangeni la itolo njengoba savete sifise ukuthi vele ma holiday maningi kakhulu kulandzelela elinye nje it's a long weekend next weekend kutaba ku celebrate ke lilanga leti-70 International Workers Day kanye lapha kanti labanye balebethe ngekuthi yi-May Day, so nje ama holiday nje ayalandzelana impela. Sibonga kakhulu ukuthi nibe naso namhla ekuseni. Thank you so much. Sitha besikhuluma kabanti ke ngetindzaba lana te Catholic Good Shepherd Catholic Mission Church batabeke ba celebrate iminyaka lelikhulu 100 years since its existence. Sitha besikhulumisana na Father Ncamiso Vilakati sitakhuluma ukuthi i-Good Shepherd Mission ifaya ekhathi kunesibhedlela kunelikolishi kunelisondvo kunetikolwa sitabe sikhuluma kabanti ke ngema milestones nje lesabandlulekiwe kulo 100 years naye Father Ncamiso at 6:30.
Yeah, kanti ke sitawuphinze sijoyinwe indvuna yetempilo lizinkosi makugabanxa insimbi yesikhombisa just to talk about the situational analysis ye-adequate oxygen supply in the healthcare system lapha eveni la kaNgwane. Siyathi ukuthi uma kubhedvuka umkhuhlane i-COVID-19 it brought to light kakhulu indzaba ukuthi live liyayidzinga i-adequate oxygen supply kuyo i-healthcare system yethu, and more than just to respond to COVID-19 but to other emergencies as well. Latzinga yona i-oxygen le adequate. Indvuna Lizinkosi will join us to talk to us about that development in terms of in response to the situation that many countries including live la kaNgwane labhekana nayo makuphetvuka lo mkhuhlane. We will talk about the bed capacity because kuba ne bed count, tintfo letinengi letidzingekako, kube ne infrastructure letidzingekako outside of imibeds, the PPE material that was required for health practitioners nanawo ukuthi akhona ukuthi asaqhuba lo msebenzi awuchube kahle ngalokwanele. Health Minister Lizinkosi will join us to talk about that development at 7:30. Don't go anywhere. Lulu, it looks like ngalabo Wednesday vele emaswati aba spoiled etindzabeni tetempilo. Yeah, so hopefully nalomuhla kunengi labantu akufunza lamhla.
All right, it's 30 minutes after 6. Let's take a break. Stop when it indzaba tetfu this is Eswatini.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Kwelo muhla siphinze sikwamukele ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show sekuphele imizuzu lesithupha soloku bumbene insimbi yesithupha asibuke indzaba lapha ekhaya silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sisukile kuleli salibhekisa event le Republic of Zimbabwe kuyawungenela umhlangano we Transforming Africa Summit wa 2023 kulolu hambo engwenyama isingathwe inkosikazi Makela Mathebula.
Ingwenyama eMaswati selo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sisukile King Mswati III International Airport imbube emhlaba isithwe inkosikazi Makela Mathebula kulolu hambo. Silo silibhekise eveni le Republic of Zimbabwe lapho siyawungenela khona umhlangano webaholi bemave wekushintsha livekati le-Afrika lo watiwa ngokuthi i-Transform Africa Summit 2023. Kulo mhlangano kulapho kuhlangana abaholi bemave ase-Afrika basetinhlangothini letinye temhlaba lapho babuketa khona tindlela nemasu ekuthuthukisa nekundlondlobalisa luhlangothi lokucephesha e-Afrika. Lolu hlangothi lolu-ke lumcoka event Eswatini njengoba livele isabheka ukuthi lithuthuke liyembili. Lebe bakhona kutawuvalelisa ingwenyama bekubomake emakhosikazi sigodlo boba betikhulu mvunankulu welive tindvuna tembuso kanye nalabanye labakhulu embusweni nesive songana. Ndzabeni bikaphulile maziya esikhumulweni setindiza iKing Mswati III International Airport.
Silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sesifikile eveni leZimbabwe lapho khona simenywe ukuthi siyawungenela umhlangano i-Transform Africa Summit. Kulo mhlangano baholi bemave ase-Afrika batawuphuma netinyathelo letinsha tekuthuthukisa livekati le-Afrika kusetshenziswa telwati tekuchumana kanye netebuchwephesha. Ingwenyama ke isingathwe inkosikazi Makela Mathebula kulolu hambo.
Silo ingonyama eMaswati sifike eveni leZimbabwe silungele siphelele kutawengeta sisindvo emetameni elivekati le-Afrika ephuthumisa intuthuko lekhosile kusetshenziswa tekwatisa tekuchumana netebuchwephesha. Silo semhlaba sifike edolobheni Victoria Falls sisingathe inkosikazi Makela Mathebula sabala ke kubaholile bekubheke ukuthi befike kuleli dolobha kutawungenela sigaba sesithupha salomhlangano. Ingonyama emhlaba emukelwe indvuna itangephandle netekuthengiselana Frederick Shava ngesikhathi ifika esikhumulweni setindiza eVictoria Falls International. Indvuna yetfule esilweni libandla letindvuna tembuso lebekadzeti kulesikhumulo setindiza kutewumukela yona ingonyama yeMaswati. Indvuna letetfule esilweni kube indvuna lebuka esifundza sasemathebeleland North Richard Moyo, indvuna yetelwati kuxhumana nebuchwephesha Jenfan Muswere, nendvuna yetekuvikela Opha Machonguri Kashiri netikhulu temibutho ebetekuvikela khona eZimbabwe. Dulu kwaloko ingonyama nenkosikazi bemukelwe ngemigido yemdzabo. Phandle kwengonyama emhlaba namengameli welive leZimbabwe Emerson Mnangagwa labanye abaholi lebese kunesiqiniseko sokuthi batawungenela lamhlangano bebafaka ekhathi mengameli waseRwanda nophindze abe ngusihlalo welibandla labaqondzisi enhlanganweni iSmart Africa Alliance Paul Kagame, mengameli Lazarus Chakwera waseMalawi namengameli Hakainde Hichilema waseZambia. Lubika kwethu indzabeni ngisandile Makhanya eVictoria Falls eZimbabwe.
Iphini landvunankulu Themba Masuku lithi lilanga lekuphakamiswa kwemjeka welive lilanga lelimcwa kakhulu emlandweni weMaswati. Kanti-ke liphindze likhumbute eMaswati ngemvelaphi yawo. Masuku bekakhuluma ngelilanga lemjeka welive lelimhlati nge-25 enyangeni yaMabasa.
Umjeka welive laseSwatini waphakama wambimba kwekucala ngqa mhla tinge-25 enyangeni yaMabasa ngeminyaka 1967 ngesikhathi inkosi Sobhuza wesibili ithatha sifungo sebukhosi lokwasho kucala kwenkululeko yelive leMaswati embusweni weMangisi lewabese iyapheleliswa ngeminyaka lolandzelako ngenyanga yeNyoni. Liphini landvunankulu Themba Masuku licocisana nalomsakato licale lachaza ngemlandvo walomjeka welive nebumgcoka balomjeka emlandweni weMaswati.
Ungakaphakami lomjeka inkosi ingwenyama Sobhuza wesibili eMangisi bekala ukuthi yena kuthiwe uking babethi nguparamount chief yena la iphakama le flag iyayikhona le Mangisi lokuthiwa Union Jack. So kuleyo transition letinyenzawo uthi na uhamba ukhanze awomabili kulelinye kunjani njani kepha kuphakama kwako inkosi yafunga ukuthi seyinking ngaleso sikhathi yase iyachubeka ke lendzaba yokuthi kutathi nga September 6 1968 sewuyehlakelwe eMangisi umjeka wehla kokuphela sekude la uta phakama khona utawusetshenziswa khona ngoba sesisebenzisa lo wethu. Kungako ke lelanga lelikhulu kakhulu ngilapha eMaswati ehlukana khona wabuya inkosi yawo ngekuphelela engasesiye paramount chief sekuyinkosi ngekuphelela inkosi ingwenyama lesi sasathi thina ukuthi ngiko ke lamhla lelanga lelikhulu.
Liphini landvunankulu lincusene ukuthi eMaswati akanakisise kahle imibala yalomjeka welive bangambimbisi nje noma ngabe ngimuphi umjeka lonemibala lecishe ifane naleyo lengiyo. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika samkelisiwe Khoza nginavuma inkosi Nzinisa namuze Mkhonta eMbabane.
Kanzikelo sabambe kuba nguNdunankulu uThemba Masuku uthi uhulumende uyawusekela umcimbi webushfire futhi uyayibona nenzima lo idlalako emimangweni. Masuku bekakhuluma eHouse on Fire nakasukumisa ngalokusemthethweni umcimbi webushfire walonyaka ngemsombuluko ebusuku. Lo mcimbi wesekelwe ngemali linganiselwa ngetulu kwetigidi letintsatfu temalangeni 3.6 million wemalangeni.
Akhuluma nakasukumisa ngalokusemthethweni isigaba selishumi nesithupha semcimbi webushfire losabambe kuba nguNdunankulu uThemba Masuku uthi lo mcimbi ukhangata inkulungwane tebantu labachamuka emhlabeni wonke kuthuthuke tinhlangothi letahlukahlukene emangweni ngekuba khona kwalabo bantu kuleli live laseSwatini.
I have brought government's appreciation on what this the MTN festival has brought to the vulnerable. I happen to sit on the downstream of the people who get the help from this festival, where you find the orphaned and vulnerable children. And those who are putting together this festival don't understand the appreciation of those who are getting the help. I do, because I sit with them on the other side.
Indvuna yetekuvakasha Moses Vilakati ithi lo mcimbi uyaluphakamisa ihlangothi lwetekuvakasha wacela sive ukuthi sivule emakhaya silalise leto tivakasha letabe tingenele lo mcimbi. Sihlalo welibandla lelilungisela lo mcimbi lophinze abe lilunga lephalamende lenkundla kalobamba lomdzala Mawik Khumalo uthe ngalo mcimbi bosomabhizinisi labancane bayaphila impela.
So much has been said about the 1600 plus job opportunities that come our way. We have our marketeers, vendors, community policing. They do get an opportunity to be of service.
Kanzi inkampani yaka MTN yona-ke isekele lo mcimbi ngemali lengu 3.6 million emalangeni. Kuphinzeke kwasukunyiswa ne-app leyatewa ngekuthi i-Bushfire app. Lo mcimbi utawubanjwa mhla ka-26 kuya ku-28 May kulo mnyaka. Kubika Khiyani Msibi ngise-House on Fire eMalkans.
Indvuna yelitiko letisebenti kanye nenhlalakahle yato Phila Buthelezi ifike kungakateleki enkampanini leyakha emafridge i-fridge factory kumathapha kulandzela ukuthi bayilume indlebe kusile nkampani ayihloniphi lilanga lemjeka welive laphocelela tisebenti ukuthi tivukele emsebentini. Indvuna isaxoxisana nebaphathi bale nkampani kuvelile ukuthi le nkampani ilandzele igazethi yahulumende lethi akusilo holiday tinkampanini letikhicitako ema-factories.
Indvuna yelitiko letisebenti kanye nenhlalakahle yato Phila Buthelezi ithi kusukela kulomnyaka losetulu kude emaholide kumele angahlonishwa tinkampani.
Kulama wage regulations latawo issueshwa 2023 kude nje la kutaba nemaholide lakhetsiwe khona ngoba se le office lengcwelete umthetho seleselulekile ukuthi ngekusho komthetho sisekelo konke lokutawu gazethwa as a holiday gazethwa leave kuthi umqashi lo tikhethela ukuthi le holiday leli akusona holiday ngibheka ukuthi bonke abantu basebenza. Asisho ukuthi ngeke kwendeke kusetshenzwe ngema-holiday kulethinye tindzawo lathi ema-holiday. Kodwa ke interest yethu sekuthena nangabe kwendekile kwasetshenzwe ngama-holiday. Nale mbasha ayikhombe ukuthi ngivukele ngale-holiday.
Umphathi wenkampani yaka Fridge Factory uthi balandzela igazethi yahulumende lekunyata ukuthi le nkampani ingasebenza nangema-holiday.
But yes, it is a holiday. But it is not a holiday for manufacturing. And hence a correction memo was issued yesterday that the people must come to work today. Today is a normal working day for manufacturing. We did consult with the Gazette to verify, and the Gazette for 2020-22 has it that today is a normal working day.
Sihlalo welibandla lenhlangano lelibuke emalungelo etisebenti kule nkampani Almon Simelane uthi betamile ukukhulumisana le nkampani.
Sabuya ke samukeni page umuntu uthi yemcashi emaholide sidawahlala tsini. Samcashi hayi. Nokuthathaphi. Sibe sihlangene but ke confirma utowuva ukuthi vele kuliqinisa yini. hayi confirm abuye futhi kithi athi hayi everything ku-fine vele emaholide ndawahlala ashintshe nale plan yokusebenza ikhombe ukuthi today kude lesikudakwenda kude nje umuntu udakwenda emsebenzini hayi sijabule vele sithi sisebenza onto utofind ukuthi itolo ngabo-3 guquguqu umlungu yeyi nani sasathi kude umlungu ekhaya la nonke ndilamsebenzini.
Indvuna ithi ibonile ukuthi kumele leli tiko lilungise indlela lichumana ngalo ngetinkampani njengaloku leminye imilayeto yahulumende igcina ingakefiki kuto lokube sekudala simo lesibi etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla minamuzi mkhonta sekumathapha.
Indvuna yelitiko letempilo lizinkosi ivakashele umtholampilo wakabhudla lapho kuchubeka khona luhlelo lekuniketa lusito lwetempilo loluchutshwa inhlangano imbabane Rotary Club ibambisene nalo litiko. Lo hlelo libukeke kakhulu ukuniketa lusito lwetempilo lwematinyo kubafunzi.
Uhambisana neligoli lesithathu lakamhlaba lentuthuko lekhonsako, indvuna yetiko letempilo lizinkosi seyisukumise ihlelo lalonyaka loluchutshwa litiko letempilo libambisene nembabane Rotary Club nelitiko letemfumvo lekuvakashela imimango ukuniketa lusito lwetempilo lwematinyo kubafunzi lapho kube sekuniketwa khona nalolunye lusito lwetempilo kufaka ekhathi kuhlolo lwasifo samdlavuza tifo letingathathelwana kulokunye. Lonyaka loluhlelo lutawuchutshwa emtholampilo wakabhudla enkundleni yasemafutheni. Ikhuluma kulo msebenzi indvuna yetempilo ithi live liphokophele ekusonzeteni esiveni lonke lusito lwetempilo.
Litiko letempilo njengoba nati siyetama ukuthi etindzaweni tonke sisonzete imitholampilo sisonzete tibhedlela kodwa kuyakuthi njalo ngetikhathi sisonzete ema-campaigns noma ngabe sifuna kujovisa abantwana noma ngabe sibuka ukuthi kukhona lokubhedvukile kuna COVID noma kukhona lesisakubuka ukuthi kuyahlongota kuyeta njenganangu cholera solo sichubeka sathi sasive kodwa siyathanda ukuthi ema-services onke elitiko ukuthi bantu batokhona kuphila asonzele kubantu.
Lobuko i-Rotary Club kulesifundza yena ubeke kanjena.
What Rotary does worldwide is to partner with governments so that we can help where we can. And that is why we are here today.
Lohlelo lembabane Rotary Club lekuvakashela imimango seluchutshwe iminyaka leli-14. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza nginamuzi mkhonta kabhudla.
Libandla letelukhetfo nemingcele yetinkhundla selicale kuvivinya luhlelo lwetebuchwephesha lekubhalisela lukhetfo kutelukhetfo lwalonyaka luhambe ngemumo nangendlela lehlelekile. Lokhu kuvetwe ngilokuxhumanisa sive nalelibandla Mbonisi Bhembe.
Libandla libuke indzaba telukhetfo futhi liyachubeka nekwatisa sive ngemsebenti wawo emalungiselelo elukhetfo. Lilala benyoni libandla ngawo unalawo malungiselelo lapho khona eMaswati atawukhumbula ukuthi solo liphishanekile libandla ngekufundzisa nobe kukhumbuta sive ngalo lukhetfo lwa 2023 kuyo yonke imiphakathi lapho khona sewutawucishe ubuke ukuthi lokungenani kuloku siphohlongo kuloku lishumi 80% sekuyiwe kuleyo miphakathi. Siyabonga kakhulu kumukelwa ngetandla letitfokomele kuwo wonke lemiphakathi lapho libandla beliye khona. Libandla ke alikagcini ngawo umsebenzi wekuyokhuluma ngato tindzaba telukhetfo kepha solo lichubeke njalo nokwenta emalungiselelo esigaba lesilandzelako lapho khona eMaswati atawube abhalisa bungiwo bawo abhalisa ukuthi atawuba ingcenye yawo umsebenzi welukhetfo lapho khona wonke umuntu akhutsatwa lokuthi abe ingcenye yawo umsebenzi kude ukuthi bonke abantu labafanele ukuthi bayobhalisa ngemumo wabo bakhone kuyobhalisa njengesimiso sayo lukhetfo lolungilo i-genuine elections lokusho ukuthi i-universal suffrage. Siyakhutsata ke eMaswati ukuthi akabe ingcenye yawo umsebenzi wokubhalisa njengaloku sesibonile ukuthi libandla solo liyephishanekile akusiko nini isikhathi lesitse kakhulu lapho libandla beliveta ukuthi ukhona leselimcokile ukuthi alilungiselele wona umshini wekubhalisa lamuhla sesiyabona ukuthi sekuyafundziswana ngokuthi nembala lo mshini utabe usebenta kanjani lebandla liphindza futhi liyawuvivinya lo mshini lokuthi uyakhona yini kwenda lo msebenzi wokubhalisa kuthi emadudane libandla litabe selivela futhi litokhutsata emaswati ngekwanika emalanga alo libhaliso lapho khona wonke umuntu leneminyaka lelishumi nesiphohlongo kuya etulu atawunikwa lithuba lokuthi ahambe ayobhalisa.
Umbhishobhi welibandla leMasheshe Dalsie Dlamini sosukumise ngalokusemthethweni umsebenzi waleli bandla wekufuya timbuti kanye netinkhomo kude kutozuza emaswati leswele. Umbhishobhi uthi lo msebenzi ubitwa nge-Anglican Gods Project.
Lo mbhishobhi welibandla leMasheshe Reverend Dr. Dalsie Dlamini uchaza kabanti ngobumcoka balo msebenzi.
Namuhla bazalwane banikele labaqhamuka indzaweni letehlukene bathi akusukunyiswe umsebenzi wekufuya timbuti wekufuya tinkhomo wekufuya tilwane leti tawugcina tilisita libandla laNkulunkulu kwekuthi umsebenzi waNkulunkulu uthuthuke. In other words, sicala ima project lesithi livangeli lethu li holistical akusiko nje ukuthi sishumayela Jesu kuphela kodwa sithi umuntu asim-empowerishe ngato tonke tindlela. Ema project njengaloku sisho libandla lase-Anglican ligcwele ngwane wonke litawusita kunebantfu labaswele siphila netintsandzane siphila nebafelokati siphila nje nebantfu vele labaswele nje nasemimangweni libandla libuke emakholwa kuphela libuka wonke umuntu holistically so siyakholwa lokwekuthi as lama projects aphakama kusho kwekuthi nabani uyasitakala mangabe ke liBhayibheli uyalifunza uyati lokwekuthi livangeli alihambi lodwa lidzinga kwekuthi ibe khona imisebenzi leyendakalako ukuze umuntu asitakale.
Ngakulunye endzabeni lechubekako lapho khona lamanye amalunga lelibandla sekavete kungabufokoteli ubuholi bakhe lo mbhishobhi usite utawaphendvula ngalesithathu ngalesimo lesichubekako kuleli bandla. Ndzabeni nkubika Fortune Dlangamandla ngikamanzini.
Stanley Stewart longatse eblohweni lelakhiwako eNgcayini ngaphansi kwenkhundla kaNkomo yahlaba uyitekisa kwenganekwane indzaba yemadvodza lamathathu libewahlome ngesibhamu lamhlasele ngentsatsakusa yangalesibili amfuna imali nensango. Logatse ubonga umdali ngekumsindzisa kulesigameko.
Bewungafunga ukuthi ubukela bhayisikobho ngendlela yemadvodza lamathathu libewahlome ngetibhamu ahlasela agatse eNgcayini amfuna insangu nemali nelithoshike lasebenta ngalo. Logatsi-ke uthi kubatshele ukuthi uti letintfo labatifunako kwaba ngilapho-ke bamkhomba ngesibhamu.
Ngase sengiyavula nangithi ngiyavula bakhwesha kanti bebalamnyama bema lapha ngakhanza sibangekho lamnyama nangithi ngiyababuka ngiyabakhanyisa ngale nanginjani bathi bafuna ungidubulela ukuthi ngibakhanyiselane ngababona bathi ngabakhanyisa ngase ngibona lesibhamu ngavele ngavala umnyango masinyane ngathi hawu nani madoda lento engiyibonile le angifuni nje kubhekana nayo lana ngisavuli kenyana ngifela la nangabe ngidubuleni la ngekhathi.
Basuke lapho-ke balibangisa ngesheya nje kulelinye likhaya lakaMagagula lapho khona kunesiphaza lapho-ke bafike bahlasela khona ngenhlavu kube nekudubulana njengoba nebakuleli khaya bakhonile-ke kuphendvula ngeyakabo inganono. Emajaha akuleli khaya abenesibinzi awalwisa lamadvodza labese aphelelwe etinhlavu kule nganono yawo. Colani Magagula lobalwisile uyayiteka indzaba.
Bona bafika la sibalandzela mnake bayadubula sebathi batangidubula abasadubuli lapho bona badubula ukuthi nqa ngibone ukuthi kude inhlavu lapho ngene khona sibinzi ngase siyakhola lokuthi siba attack senta kugudutisana vele ngale yakulehle khona lesibhamu sala wawa munye wathi asewile wabechangwa lo munye aphethe ebhusha wathi bona ngigeca ngade ngivike njani ngavika vele wabe endlula abe ngibaleka ngathi ngiyabaleka ngawo atsinzeka nje la lo muntu nje awusebenzi la.
Loxhumanisa amaphoyisa nesive Superintendent Phindile Vilakati uvumile lo mbiko kanike amaphoyisa asachubeka neluphenyo ngalesigigaba. Kubika Giyani Msibingi naSimuva Shongwe siseNgcayini.
Imidlalo mengameli wenhlangano yemidlalo wemabhayisikili Zwide Nxumalo uthi inombolo tabomake labangenela lo mdlalo tikhomba kuphakama lapha eveni. Nxumalo uthi sekuvele kungumthetho walo lonke licembu lemabhayisikili lapha eveni kuthi libe nebashovila babomake kudeke kuthi masinyane live licale kuba nabomake labakhona kungenela imichudzelwano yangaphandle.
Njengendlela ekuchubeka nekuthuthukisa umdlalo wamabhayisikili lapha eveni, inhlangano yalomdlalo ithi noma tinombolo tabomake labangenela lo mdlalo tikhomba kuphakama lapha eveni, kodwa-ke kumcoka ukuthi onke amacembu lapha eveni abe nebadlali lababomake.
I think the key thing, it's not just about the females, but at the basic level, it's just about improving access to the sports, because you know with getting into cycling akufani nasebholeni mhlawumbe la tawusukhanza khona bantu bayadlala in the streets uyakhona kubajoyina. Joining cycling requires you to make substantive investment in terms of getting a bicycle, getting the right equipment and all that. So part of what we've seen our clubs do is being very helpful in terms of guiding people who are getting into the sport in terms of, okay, where can I find a cheaper bicycle or an affordable bicycle? Where can I get affordable equipment and all that? So we believe once we address those basic issues, go entry at the entry point of the sport, we'll be able to then attract more people into the sport. But in particular, when speaking about the issue of female participation or women participation in the sport, we have seen quite an improvement over the last maybe 12 months. Also just in terms of the activities that are happening to address that, because one initiative, let's say my ladies, where they have quarterly, monthly rides, because one of the things that tend to drive people away from a very closed group in a very with a very advanced level of skills abangeke bakhona kufitha ingoyo.
Eminyakeni lophelile kude umshovu wamabhayisikili longumake lomelele live emidlalweni ema-Olympics kanye nale ema-Commonwealth, kodwa-ke le nhlangano itimisele ukuthi lokhu kungenteki emidlalweni letako. Lobikela umsakati Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanzombeka uhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
32 minutes after 6 isifike emaphethelweni etindzaba tethu talapha ekhaya sibahlole emakethe ngesimo selitulu uma sibuya longelele speaks to Father Ncamiso Vilakati luqhamuka eGood Shepherd Catholic Church utabeke bakhulumisa indzaba ukuthi they've been existing for 100 years kuze kube ngilamuhla John Gweni we.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Right, welcome back. Sakuvusela nawe lesandza kusivulela ihleleni Kusile Breakfast bezwetile ukuthi sidabe sikhulumisana na Father Ncamiso Vilakatilo sokukhona Good Shepherd Catholic Mission Church batabeke ba celebrate 100 years this coming Saturday of existence of leli somfo. Sidakhumula ukuthi Good Shepherd ikunesibhedlela kunetikolwa kune college kanye netibhedlela sifuna ukuva nje abantu ukuthi kulo 100 years ngutiphi timfo labatendile kuzaba nje kufinyelela emangweni sisivile sinaye lapha Father Vilakati sikuvusele baba Vilakati, thank you so much for joining us today. Si milestone lenkulu lena 100 years. I think kungaba kuva nje ukuthi what is the history and background of the construction of konke nje Good Shepherd, the schools, the clinic and the hospitals ngifolile ukuthi kwaya establishwa nguFather Bonaventura Catholic 100 years ago. I think nangu sibuyisele muva nje usichazele on the history and the background of the church.
No, siyabonga kakhulu sibonge nakumbukele ekhaya ngithathele lithuba ukuthi ngimvusele ekuseni asatlungiselela ke M17 nekwekuthi angathi uNkulunkulu angaba naye namhlanje. Lithuba lelihlekelele kwekuthi ngithole lithuba ukuthi ngitococela umbukeli ngeGood Shepherd Mission. iGood Shepherd Mission or Catholic Mission is one of the 17 parishes. Siyayithi mission la kaNgwane ngesikatholika ngama parishes akhona ke ang 17 kwanyalo. Kodwa na ke nasibuka emlandweni wawo emakatholika eSwatini iGood Shepherd iparish yes4 ngebudzala eSwatini. Ngoba sitawukhumbula lokuthi mhla ka 27 January 1914 kwefika abafundisi la eMbabane kuthiwa kuseMater Dolorosa bafika 1914 bese ke mhla ka 27 May base baya ke St Joseph's eMzimpofu mhla ka 22 November 1922 baya enzaweni ekuthiwa kuse Florence noma kuse Santissima Annunziata le ngaseluve ne parish kuthiwa iSantissima Annunziata kuthiwa iFlorence Mission. Of course yes 4 ke sengiyo ke iGood Shepherd Catholic Mission lese stake isuka njani iGood Shepherd iqhamuka kanjani kusuka umfundisi emission ke lebe ikhona lebe yinzala ngaleso sikhathi lebe kuthiwa iMater Dolorosa kuqhamuka umfundisi ufika eMbabane mhla ka 5 December nga 1922 uyahlala nje umnyaka bese kuthi ngeminyaka lolandzelako so uthatha ke dikhomata yakhe ke bathi ngiFather Bonaventura Catherine uya estegi ufike ke so usungula le mission le ibe ingasikhashane nenzawo kuthiwa kusestegi STEGI at the time ufika uthenga eliplaza nga 500 pounds bayafike ke bayaqala ke bakha tindlu tetshani ngaleso sikhathi basungula le mission bayetha ngekuthi kumele usilomuhle the Good Shepherd.
Okay. So sifuna ukuva nje ukuthi because siyade ukuthi vele sinetikolo nje bangifitile ukuthi kunema college futhi netibhedlela and clinic nje lapha eSt Jesus nakhona iGood Shepherd. I think mhlambe lokhu nasingena nje ngala itibhedleleni lokuthi solo nje vele sitaqala letibhedlela ingaba vele mhlambe senifinyelele kubantu labangaki the growth of the clinics sinifinyelela abantu labangaki emangweni sathi lokuthi vele iGood Shepherd ithume kakhulu estegi and seniyazamana lokuthi bodokotela benu nala kamanzi eSt Jesus nje for instance yes I think singaba sifuna ukuva nje the health aspect of kuba khona kweGood Shepherd Mission.
You'll be surprised if I tell you ukuthi yena lo mfundisi lo Father Bonaventura Catherine in the early 40s kuthiwa bese kana kuthiwa ngema outstations angle 11 including St Elizabeth Machambeni le celeni kwakalo Mahasha. And then bengibuta nje makholwa sicoca nawo ayangicocela lawo la kambona sibancane basibanabo 6-7 years ngaleso sikhathi bakhuluma ngekwekuthi nakasendleleni aya eSt Elizabeth kwakunenzawo emkhathini wayo kuthiwa kusesithathaweni eSt Charles bathi ke labakhumbulako bona ngokwekuthi lo Father Bonaventura bekasinakafika bogogo abaphe inakusana itax le igwayile kubhema yabona mos bese kubantwana ama sweets of course kodwa na bese babona lo mlungu yanislevel esikhulu ahamba ayogubha timphanze etside, because it was a sign ukuthi lo mfundisi vele so concerned ngehealth yebantu. Already at the time nawubuka ukuthi bese sikhona ngathi isibhedlela sakaManzini eRFM, so i-concern yakhe vele umfundisi kwakuthi elaphe bantu from there onwards. So the founder himself bekanayo le nshisekelo ukuthi i-Good Shepherd kube khona i-health facility. Of course bomake labatithwele bantu labalunywe tinyoka bokhanda ukuthi sebaba nenkinga yekwekuthi nabasafisile kwekuthi baye esibhedlela, batathi khanza ukuthi kwanza ukuthi along the way umuntu usoyafa kwenteka yonke lento leyo. So ke he decided lokuthi kube naleli phupho lakhe lokuthi kube nesibhedlela. Of course in 1949 nasekufika ke Father Terenzio Biondi, l'Italiane at the time, he actually actualized le dream yakhe Father Bonaventura kwase ke kuqala ke lesibhedlela. Nanyalo sisekhona nje eceleni kwelisondvo kunendlu etshani nangabe labanye batakuya esteki nje ngalomgcibelo lo batayibona le ndlu etshani lekusibhedlela sekuqala before simove siyele endla siyele etulu nyalo. Of course singemakatholika eSwatini, so ukhanza ukuthi sekukhona ukuthi libandla ngokuthi liya extend phela seyikhona iSt Teresa's kaManzini. Of course isitwa ngwe Good Shepherd Catholic Hospital, tikhona naletinye tibhedlela bo Our Lady of Sorrows, Regina Mundi Spiki, Florence lapha eSt Juliana's, nala ekalobamba kuthiwa St Mary's Clinic nase St Philip's. So tikhona leti bhedlela nyana ama clinics just to assist and also to get lusito vele from the Good Shepherd.
Okay, so nasibuka nje sona sibhedlela se Good Shepherd mhlambe nasingabuka nje lesa sesteki in terms of growth yaso, nasibuka nje lizinga la noma linani labodokotela lasebakhona nas comparison nje yonke leminyaka lemingaka defo lesetilashwako khona kulesibhedlela sesikhule kanganani isona nje isibhedlela se Good Shepherd.
I-view yami naloko lengikubonile solongifikile emission eGood Shepherd ukuthi isibhedlela siyakhula. Ngendlela lesikhula ngayo ngibona even the influx yetimoto the foreign registered ndabekisa nje tase Mozambique tinyende, because they are coming for the eye clinic especially in Swaziland or Eswatini. It is known ukuthi iGood Shepherd inalo lusito lolu sezingeni lelisetulu. It's a sign ukuthi vele siyakhula lesibhedlela. Kulesinye isikhathi hayi ukuthi kunjani ngiyayikhanzela abanye abantu khona nje ngithi ngiyanangivakashela kwesibhedlela ngiyahamba phela Father ngithi Father has to provide the spiritual aspect of digulane esibhedlela. Nangihamba ukhanze ukuthi uyambuta umuntu ubuyaphi ngikuphi ekhaya akutshele a place le outside of the territory maybe lesingathi kumbe kufanele ukuthi iGood Shepherd Hospital icoverage. So ke siyathi gcapha ngabo dokotela bethu labakhona labatimiselako labenda umsebenzi lomkhulu. Siyajabula futhi siyamncoma siyajabula kuye umbishop for appointing board the board yesibhedlela letawu khona ukuthi inikete i-direction lokuthi sibhedlela sibhekapi, so that the dream, as I'm saying, the dream of Father Bonaventura is sustained iyaqhubeka through the hospital. So siyajabula kakhulu for that growth and for that sustenance of ukuthi customer care also ibe as high as possible.
Okay, so imission nje ngaphambi kokuthi nibukele uhlangothi lwetempilo niphinze nikhona nangalana ehlangothini lwetemfumvo njengoba netikolo nemakolishi. I think mhlambe kusi chazela nje nako ngaloko ukuthi kwaso kanjani ke khona ukuthi salangena nangala ka education ngoba nakhona boy dream yakhe ukuthi abuke tetempilo, so ufika kanjani ke nangala ka education yena Father?
Yeah, singathi nje ngathi in the early 40s already bekunemagatsha Good Shepherd, emagatsha akhona bese kang 11 at the time. St. Elizabeth, St. Charles, St. Boniface, St. Paul's, Holy Ghost, the Holy Trinity, St. Augustine's, St. Peter's, St. Gabriel, St. John's. nabahambako ngihamba ngetinkalishi tabo bo father, they realized the level of illiteracy yebantu at the time, because sometimes phela singemaswati siba nama belief systems ethu la traditional, but lama traditional beliefs ethu ahle adzinga lokuthi abe informed by this formal education lesiyayithole esikolweni. And so kwaba i-concern yabo ukuthi sometimes when they recommend someone ukuthi no ahamba esibhedlela, someone will dilly-dally athi hayi lento lenayi kusiyintfo, yabona masinawusho njalo akusiyintfo lento le, kani sometimes itinto tidzinga nje ukuthi u-accept ukuthi yathi nangaya esikolweni I can do something about it. Hence nangibuka vele the way labase ba developer ngako labo father lokuthi lento lena kancane kancane igcine seyinkulu kaso in such a way ukuthi sesinetikolwa nje nyalo tingu 9 that's a primary primary ne high school, and of course sesinayo I Good Shepherd Catholic College of Health Sciences, so that we can actually nase bafika lapha a college of batakhona ukuthi nasebenda something esibhedlela for an example, already the culture of saying we are here to care for the health and dignity yomuntu ibe realized.
So ngifuna kuva nje mhlambe kubusela emuva kule tempilo le eye clinic sathi lokuthi vele dokotela uhlaya nase St. Teresa's kaManzini futhi abe nase Good Shepherd Stegi. Ingabe nikubukile nje ukuthi vele mhlambe ndisale nitfola nalabanye abadokotela ndisale nje baba khona saspeak labona laba bemehlo ehlangana bo big band nizama nje ukuthi nibabekele nale even lonke.
We have always had a good relationship with the government of Eswatini. Now and again, Sibona Minister of Health as Vakashela a stake, and we are always grateful to Gulogo. In fact, recently nagu graduation, Sashaya dinyo neti building achelinye. Lapho kona kwavulwa a high definition health facility. Lekishifana ne ICU, which is a sign yokuthi already government wants to sponsor Good Shepherd in a way, lokuthi support financially also. Nalo ukuthi kenyalo ke sekuna those facilities, especially the eye clinic, Good Shepherd, they're very very good. Obviously, seen as a church, as isibhedlela, sitawufisa lokuthi vele this expertise, this experience, because the experience, this experience lesinayo in terms of the eye, we are going singajabula kakhulu ukuthi singafinyeleli nje ukuthi siya Tuesday kaManzini eSt. Teresa's, kodwa nasi spread so that it becomes easier for everybody ukuthi abe ne access to the good healthcare that comes from the Good Shepherd.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the event on Saturday. Ni celebrate the 100 years. Ngabe mhlambe yini le balekile ngalo msebenzi lokuthi vele nibuke emuva ukuthi nisuka phi ni Good Shepherd Mission lala sankhona khona manje kulapho labeka face ukuthi nifike khona yini Father Bonaventura.
Singa nalapho ngicela ukucocela lokho ukuthi singemakatholika umuntu simbuka ngetinhlangothi letimbili. Siyayithi kune physical person, which is Father Ncamiso Vilakazi, is a physical person. Bese sibuka lomunye umuntu sithi a juridical person, unema rights, unema responsibilities. So Good Shepherd nayo, because it is a person, and umuntu naka celebrate a birthday, that person needs to be recognized. Bomake baya understand that birthday kumcoka bayo, anniversary ukuthi imcoka kanjani. It's a sign of saying we care for you. And so therefore we are saying to the Good Shepherd Catholic Mission, we care, we love you, and we want to maintain the standards sakho. And so therefore this coming Saturday siyajabula lokuthi Minister waka Home Affairs lo ngamele tenkolo Eswatini ngwelo utawuba khona, utawuba guest speaker yethu and uvumile uthi utawuba khona, and we are really grateful to her lokwekuthi abe khona, and it's a sign to us kwekuthi naye she's saying to us, I care for Good Shepherd, I love Good Shepherd, and that should be the spirit.
Yeah, all right. So ile event tabe kukhona Good Shepherd.
Of course, itaba khona Good Shepherd sitawuqala nga 9:30 at the old bus rank, because obviously when we talk of the Good Shepherd, we are talking of the pride of Sitegi. The Sitegi people, yabo, Good Shepherd basically. So the town council na ijabulile lokwekuthi itaba part of the celebration, because it is the pride of Elbom, yabona. So obviously we have to incorporate and include them. Sisuke khona nga 9:30 ekuseni at old bus rank, and then walk towards the Good Shepherd mission. Of course nga 10:30 sifisa ukuthi siqale inkonzo yekubonga lesiya sithi limisa thina emaRoman, bese ke sekuba netinkhulumo. Of course, kunema refreshments.
All right, thank you so much Smakhulu Father Ncamiso kuba nasemhla ekseni imbukele sokuthi vele mission ikitabe celebrate 100 years ngemcibelo khona eStegi. Tawuqala ke ngelihambo litawuqala nga 9:30 khona ebus rank eStegi uthi uyofika khona esibhedlela. Asibahlete makethe sitaba sitaqhubeka nehlelo.
Kwamukela ngalo muhle ehlelweni. It is a Wednesday sikhulumisa Dona Ndzaba Tetempilo. Lulu, I think sisakhulumisa Dona Ndzaba Tetempilo, it's only right ukuthi sihle si highlight lama strides londiwe live. Eku from you sentfole lisito lwetempilo lo.
Consider so I think indzaba leyo vele labayihambisa embili tilo tempilo ukuthi vele tiphelela kumele ukuthi tibethutane in cases of emergencies isifiso mangabe umvuzo okhanzakala ukuthi soyagula sokuthenga lisito lwetempilo. I think nje imvala isebenta kahulumende ukuthi vele tindzawo letiningi lapha ekhaya Eswatini tibe netibhedlela letitutane kungasito tibhedlela kuphela sifiso nato tikolwa njoba nje nalo litiko livetele ukuthi at least umphana angahambi libanga lenga 8 kilometers ekseni makaya esikolweni. So in terms of imetamo nje lento ngihulumende kunengako nesiqiniseko ukuthi sive samaswati sengileso lesine inhlala kahle lenhle lapha ekhaya Eswatini uyasebenta impela hulumende sifiso.
I was also interested since I was hulumende, and this is something I'm looking forward to speaking to the Minister of Health ngayo indzaba my stakeholders, the country stakeholders, as well as, all the other stakeholders now in the health sector. Seeing this development, I think it was 2 days ago, Bernard Cashberger, umphathi waka MSF lapha eveni, bavala office labo eShiselweni. Basebenza njenga World Vision ukuthi babakhona for a certain period of time, bangaqeda they move to a different region. Bernard Cashberger would donate all their vehicles, about 70 Shiselweni, to the Shiselweni health sector as they move office. I'm not too sure what's by happy. They could be coming to Manzini or Bonjeni, I'm not too sure, but I think notably what I'm highlighting in Zabayagwegutsi, with all the Msebendi Labawendile Sfunzen Sasa Shiselweni, they've built a lot of healthcare units in different Nasemapandlen, Basbabonile. They were very instrumental during the COVID-19 response. They were very instrumental. I was shocked to see Bafika Lagangwane during TB prevalence, and Lomlandvo would see Sifunza Sasa Shiselweni at the time. had the highest tuberculosis prevalence. And bathi nabafika, bathi nabahlala phasi babawa ukuthi sibaplace kwathiwa asibaplace eshiselweni. And as soon as babekwa, bathi isikhathi nje lesincane, they were able to mitigate lo mkhuhlane loyo we-TB. Isifunda saseshiselweni sasitaka kakhulu. But I think most importantly, lokusuka kwabo esifundeni saseshiselweni, with all the work they have done, lokushiya all their vehicles, siya-target moto taka-MSF, kuba timoto letinkhulu, ema-Toyota, timoto mbamba letikhona ku-withstanda ngisho imigwaco lemibi. So I think bekumsebenzi lomhle kakhulu loko, siyethemba ukuthi even other stakeholders, as they continue to help the country, they go beyond just le misebenzi labayenza ngetandla kusita ukugula kwabantu.
Yeah, all right. So it's 2 minutes before 7 o'clock. Let's take a break. Staubuya and Nema International News.
Using an ATM is a simple process. You simply insert your card, punch in your PIN, and withdraw your cash. However, this simple process can open up you and your finances to some dangers. So it is very important that you proceed with caution when using the ATM and never share your PIN. When approaching the ATM, it is very important that you have your card ready, either in your hand or in your pocket, so that you do not waste time going through your belongings, either your wallet or your handbag, as this will give opportunities for thieves to act. Thirdly, put your money away immediately. Don't give anyone an opportunity to grab your cash or your card after a withdrawal. Lastly, always take your receipt after each and every transaction. It is important that you get your sleep after every transaction because it contains crucial information about your balances, and that may lead you to be a victim of bolandela. Be cyber aware, be cyber smart.
Back at 7 o'clock, let's take a look at international news. A mob in the Haitian's capital city beat and burned 13 suspected gang members to death with gasoline-soaked tires on Monday after pulling the men from police custody at a traffic stop, police and witnesses said. The horrific vigilante violence underlined public anger over the increasingly lawless situation in Port-au-Prince, where criminal gangs have taken control over an estimated 60% of the city since July 2021.
Half a dozen bodies being burned on the streets of Haiti's capital, victims of vigilante justice. Supposed gang members killed in broad daylight and then set on fire by residents, according to witnesses. Those who live in the neighborhood ready to fight back.
If the gangs come to invade us, we will defend ourselves. We have our own weapons. We have our machetes. We will take their weapons. We will not run away. Mothers who want to protect their children can send them elsewhere.
The violence had started in the early hours of the morning when criminal gangs burst into several homes and attacked residents. Hours later, police stopped and searched a minibus supposedly containing several gang members. According to officials, a mob saw this as a chance for revenge.
During a search of a minibus in which there were armed individuals, the police confiscated weapons and other equipment. In addition, more than a dozen individuals travelling in this vehicle were unfortunately lynched by members of the population.
The violence underlines the increasingly lawless situation in Port-au-Prince. Criminal gangs have taken control over an estimated 60% of the city since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse nearly 2 years ago. On Monday, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for the deployment of an international armed force to Haiti in a desperate attempt to temper the escalating violence. It comes as a UN report highlighted the surge in murders and kidnappings in the country, with special emphasis on Kusile, an area of the capital that has become besieged by gangs who are blocking access in and out. Locals terrorised by the violence are afraid to venture out of their homes. According to the UN, reported kidnappings have nearly doubled in the country in the last 3 months, and homicides have gone up by 21%.
Fighting in Sudan eased overnight after the army and a rival paramilitary force agreed to a 3-day truce, allowing more Sudanese to flee on Tuesday and foreign countries to extract citizens.
These images show the destruction along a street in Khartoum as people began venturing out in hopes of finding food or escaping the violence. Gunfire and explosions were heard Tuesday in the Sudanese capital, despite a 72-hour ceasefire brokered by the U.S. and agreed to by the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces.
It was supposed to be the first day of the ceasefire that was declared yesterday, but the ceasefire was broken today.
Meanwhile, nations continued to evacuate foreign nationals from Sudan on Tuesday, including Greece, France, India, and Britain, which launched what it called a large-scale evacuation of its citizens from the country.
So the situation remains dangerous, volatile, and unpredictable, and we're calling people forward in priority order based on their vulnerability.
Millions of Sudanese people have been trapped inside their homes since the fighting began more than a week and a half ago, many without food or electricity. But some have been able to escape the capital, like this woman who fled with her family after their house was hit by a missile.
And the missile didn't go off. It just went through the roof, and we think it's still there in the house. So that became no longer a safe option. We had to move out. I'm in Port Sudan. We got here yesterday afternoon after a nearly 28-hour bus trip. It's a blessing to be here, so we're thankful for that.
The UN says that almost 500 people have been killed and more than 4,000 wounded since the fighting broke out. And with many hospitals closed, the healthcare system in the country is on the verge of collapse.
The basement in Bakhmut, the epicenter of Ukraine's determined fight against Russia's invasion, shakes from shilling above ground, and bloodied, pale soldier tumbles from the ambulance outside. Fighting for the town, once known for its salt mines and sparkling wine production, has grinded on for 10 long months.
The city of Bakhmut has been ravaged by warfare in what's become the longest and bloodiest standoff of the war. These Ukrainian soldiers are trying to rescue their fellow comrade, hit in the back by shrapnel. And it's a struggle to get through the ruins and debris alongside the constant bombardment by artillery fire.
The situation is tense now. The enemy is conducting offensive operations along the entire front line, mainly in the city. The enemy failed to succeed in encircling the city along the outskirts. It has now shifted all its efforts to the city.
Since last summer, Russian troops, alongside the Wagner paramilitary group, have been pushing to capture the eastern Ukrainian city, with Kyiv's forces holding out despite both sides suffering heavy losses. According to the troops, there's barely any people left in the city. Buildings lie empty of their inhabitants, now used by Russian forces as battle stations. And stocks of ammunition are falling fast, but it's difficult to replenish them.
It's very hard to get out of Bakhmut because they shoot at the roads at the slightest movement.
Military analysts believe that capturing Bakhmut itself holds little strategic value for Moscow, but would prove significant as a home victory. Ukrainian forces have long said that they're preparing a major counter-offensive due in the coming weeks.
On the Chernobyl disaster anniversary, scientists warn of a potential catastrophe at the Russian-occupied nuclear power station in Ukraine.
Last March, Russians captured the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Since then, experts say the station has been operating in violation of safety standards.
Due to Russian occupation, it is impossible to adhere to all the safety standards that are normally required for nuclear power plant.
Ukraine's state regulator for nuclear power plants, Energoatom, says Russian shells damaged the station's infrastructure.
Systems degrade, security degrades, and maintenance is not done on time. The equipment might fail at any moment.
Eyewitnesses say there is Russian military equipment on the station's grounds.
We saw how Russians imposed a dictatorship over the station with weapons. They captured the facilities, the perimeter, and deployed their military equipment and weapons on the station's grounds. Tanks, armored personnel carriers.
Oleg Dudar is a former head of the plant's operations division. He worked under the occupation for 6 months until he decided to run away.
No one who is not there now can imagine even how bad it is. Even I, who was there, who saw it.
Since September, all 6 reactors at the nuclear plant have been shut down. This means that the scale of the potential disaster has decreased, says Mark Zhelezniak, a professor at Fukushima University's Institute of Environmental Radioactivity.
It cannot be a big explosion because the reactors are not working. The biggest risk is for 2 cities close to the Zaporizhzhia station. First, it is the city of Enerodar, where people who work at the station live, mainly. And also there is the city of Nikopol. It is about 10 to 15 kilometers from the nuclear station.
Poland's National Atomic Energy Agency says while the scale of the threat has decreased, electricity is needed to cool down the reactors. But the nuclear plant already had 6 blackouts, the last one in March. It happened due to shelling by Russian troops, as Energoatom said.
Electricity is needed because you have to use the pumps to cool it, to move water inside the core and remove it from the core. Without the water that is cooling right now, the temperature can increase and till moment when it will be melted. When it will be melted fuel, there will be release of the radioisotopes that's inside of the fuel.
The International Atomic Energy Agency mission has been at the plant since September and reported in April that shelling and detonations could be heard near the plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency Director General called the situation on the ground perilous and vowed to continue pressing for protection of the plant.
Russia's defense minister hosted his counterparts from Iran, Syria and Turkey on Tuesday for talks that were part of the Kremlin's efforts to help broker a rapprochement between the Turkish and Syrian governments.
The 2 leaders haven't met in more than a decade. Since President Bashar al-Assad's brutal response to the Syrian uprising in 2011, his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan has labelled him a murderer and called for regime change. Ankara became the main backer of armed opposition in Syria, and the Turkish army has fought to keep Assad's forces out of the northwest province of Idlib, the final rebel stronghold. But there's been recent signs of rapprochement, including a meeting between defense ministers in December. Turkey says it plans to build on those foundations.
Our aim is to solve problems through negotiations and bring peace to the region as soon as possible. We maintain relations within the framework of mutual respect.
There are incentives for both sides. In Turkey, there's public hostility towards the roughly 4 million Syrian refugees living there. Many Turkish people support peace talks, believing they would increase the chances of refugees returning home. That's significant for Erdogan, who's seeking re-election in May, but is currently unpopular with voters. For Assad, re-establishing ties with a NATO country could ease his international isolation. He's enjoyed continued support from Russia and is slowly returning to the regional scene. Earlier this month, the president met with Saudi Arabia's top diplomat, spurring talks on a potential return of Damascus to the Arab League. The move sparked protests in Idlib, with opponents still hoping to see the fall of the Syrian dictator.
As a deeply divided Israel marks its 75th anniversary, analysts say Iran is gaining strength in the Middle East and could threaten Israel on several fronts.
Israel is racked with internal divisions and mass protests over the judicial overhaul that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government wants. Analysts say that Iran and its regional proxy forces view Israel's domestic turmoil as a sign of weakness.
The protesters and more than the
demonstrations, it is the threat of some reserves officers and pilots in Israel not to come if they will be called, gave the other side the impression that Israel is collapsing.
After clashes between Israeli soldiers and Palestinian worshippers at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan, dozens of rockets were fired at Israel. Israeli officials say the rocket fire from both Lebanon in the north and Gaza in the south was orchestrated by Iran. The hardline leaders of Iran, called the Mullah regime by some Israeli analysts, have recently established ties with former adversaries like Saudi Arabia and Palestinian Hamas in order to consolidate regional alliances against Israel.
The Mullah regime, in the right time, in the right circumstances, in the right conditions, is going to launch what has been known in the military perspective as a multi-front war against Israel, meaning that Israel will be facing simultaneously at the same time a massive attack carried out by Iranian proxies from different arenas, most of them surrounding Israel, namely Lebanon, Syria, Gaza Strip, and maybe some other more remote circles. This is a concept that has been known in the Israeli strategic security perspective as the ring of fire.
While Iran strengthens its conventional capabilities and arms its regional proxies, it is also developing the nuclear option. Israeli officials believe Iran is just weeks away from having enough nuclear material for a bomb.
I think Iran is very close to having a bomb and having the capabilities to produce a bomb. And I think this is a big threat to Israel. However, I also don't see Iran as using the bomb, or I think the reason for having the bomb and having the capabilities of producing a bomb is mainly for deterrence. I think Iran is a rational player. Iran demonstrated since the revolution over 4 decades that interest, state policy is also important alongside ideology.
Israeli officials debate whether a nuclear Iran would present an existential threat, but they say that Israel is prepared to defend itself against any nuclear or conventional attack coming from Iran and its regional proxies.
A country renowned for its cuisine is turning to pots and pans to express discontent with French President Emmanuel Macron's pension reforms. French demonstrations against raising the retirement age from 62 to 64 have morphed from lobbying paving stones, dodging tear gas and brandishing banners to something nearer the soul of the gastronomic nation.
Outside a vocational school for teachers in Lyon, some 100 or so protesters lie in wait for France's education minister. Rather than face the hullabaloo, Pap Ndiaye changed tack and headed to the local education authority instead. But the crowd followed.
This
orchestra of pots and pans is not conducive to dialogue. When I'm out meeting people, I'm talking to education officials, including those who might have been on strike or protesting recently.
He's not the only one facing the music. In Poitiers, there was a heavy police presence for the health minister's visit to a hospital. And in the region of Sarthe, the justice minister wasn't spared the pan treatment either. The Molière Theatre Awards in Paris, attended by the Minister for Culture, were soundtracked by kitchen utensils too. The ultimate target of these concerts of crockery and mockery, President Emmanuel Macron, 1 year after he was re-elected. Protests against his unpopular pension reform will continue into the summer, with unions promising to keep fighting. Energy workers, for instance, are planning to disrupt events like the Cannes Film Festival and the French Open. The grand finale on Monday was a large percussion performance outside Paris Town Hall, which descended into vandalism and clashes with police.
Russia has threatened to scrap an initiative that enables the safe export of grain from Ukrainian Black Sea ports to the world market. The threat comes after members of the Group of 7 leading industrial nations warn they may impose further sanctions on Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine.
The Group of 7 leading industrial nations are considering a near total ban on all exports to Russia, according to Japan's Kyodo news agency, citing Japanese government sources. Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, said Sunday that if such a ban happens, Moscow will terminate the Black Sea Grain Initiative. That agreement, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey, enables the vital export of grain from Ukraine's Black Sea ports to world markets through the joint inspection of vessels at a facility in Istanbul. Ukraine is the world's 5th biggest producer. Around 28 million tons of grain have been exported under the deal since July. Experts warn its termination could have a devastating impact amid a global food crisis.
If the Black Sea deal isn't renewed and Ukraine can't export, then I expect to see food commodity prices to increase substantially again.
Russia had already said last month it might not renew the grain deal beyond its expiry on May 18th. Moscow says a separate but parallel memorandum of understanding it agreed to with the United Nations to help Russia's own agriculture sector in the face of Western sanctions is failing.
Namely, the removal of any obstacles to the export of Russian fertilizers and grain. Practically nothing has been done here.
Despite that claim, figures show Russian wheat exports actually doubled over the past year. Among the Kremlin's demands are the return of the Russian Agricultural Bank to the SWIFT global payment system, the resumption of supplies of farm machinery to Russia, and the lifting of restrictions on insurance and access to ports for Russian ships and cargo.
Certainly, those demands cannot be fully met, and the Russians know it. They're again trying to leverage the food to get all the concessions they can get. They're doing it at a time when it's almost certain that we're going to see an uptick in the conflict with the Ukrainians potentially trying to really push back the Russian positions.
So what if Russia does terminate the grain initiative?
If Russia clearly decides to be aggressive and mine the areas where the ships move, potentially target those ships, then the ships aren't going to move. Insurance rates would go very high. Decisions would be made by ship owners not to come into the Black Sea. And that would really put a strangle on the flow of grains.
The United Nations and the G7 have urged Russia to renew the grain initiative, warning that any disruption could significantly increase food prices and endanger lives in the world's poorest nations.
President Joe Biden on Tuesday formally announced that he is running for re-election in 2024, asking voters to give him more time to finish the job. He began where he was sworn into office and to set aside their concerns about extending the run of America's oldest president for another 4 years.
He's 80 years old and he's running for re-election. Joe Biden making his pitch to voters to let him finish the job with a second term in office. While the announcement didn't come as a surprise, some supporters expressed concerns about his age.
Yeah, if he's in fine health and he feels like he's able to do the job, then I think it's perfectly fine. I would prefer, honestly, if an opportunity was given to someone who is a bit younger and may have fresh ideas for the country.
I like what Biden's done. I think he's done a really good job. I personally wish he wouldn't run again. I'm 72. He's older than I am. He's really too old for the job.
Still, polls show most Democrats would support Biden in a general election. Former President Donald Trump, who's running again for the Republican nominee, was quick to disparage the president on social media.
You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history
and put them together, and they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done to our nation in just a few short years. Not even close.
Trump is riding high in the polls among Republican voters, and it's looking more likely that the 2024 presidential election will be a rematch between Biden and Trump.
Even though the support for Biden is much more tepid on the Democratic side, ultimately it's a trade-off. He's shown he can beat Trump, and when it comes to being a choice between Trump's America and Biden's America, and that's very much how Biden framed it in this announcement, Biden wins.
Biden has not directly addressed concerns about his age, instead telling the critics to watch me as he continues doing his job.
Spain is bracing for a week of temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius that are forecast to shatter records for April as officials wait opening public swimming pools early and adapting school schedules, and meteorologists warned of the risk of wildfires.
The reservoir in Catalonia in northern Spain is almost dry. The lack of rain is especially severe in the region, with reservoirs at just 1/4 of their capacity. There's no sign the situation will improve. Temperatures this week in Catalonia and other parts of the country are higher than the average in an unusually early heat wave. The president of Catalonia earlier this month expressed his concern.
This is the most serious problem we have for the immediate future. It is the primary problem. It is the most urgent and important challenge, and one that most concerns and occupies the government.
The country's meteorological agency says the heat now is linked to very dry and hot air from Africa. Temperatures are expected to hover near 30 degrees Celsius and go even higher in the southern Andalusia region. Spain's Civil Protection Agency warns of a high risk of wildfires. The nation led Europe in land burned last year during a record-hot 2022, which government and independent experts said was the product of climate change.
The small town of Frankfurt, South Africa, will face renewed power outages after a court ruled against the town's use of an independent solar electricity producer instead of the national utility Eskom. Eskom has struggled to keep the lights on across South Africa, but threatened to cut off all power Frankfurt when the town sought alternative arrangements.
Power to the people. That is what South African President Cyril Ramaphosa promised in his last State of the Nation address, amid the country's worst power cuts ever. But residents of a community in Free State Province say that was an empty promise after a High Court in April ruled against the town's use of an independent solar energy company to reduce power interruptions. The court said the town of Frankfurt, in contracting with the company, had failed to follow a number of technical and legal regulations. Now, residents and business owners will face renewed extended outages, while portions of the solar farms they were using will be shut down.
We are very disappointed about the judgment. We still believe it's really unfair. The interest of the community was not considered. We need sustainable electricity, energy for our entire region at an affordable price for everyone out there.
The court ruling means that Rural Maintenance, the independent power producer, won't be able to enforce its own schedule of load shedding, the process by which power companies implement blackouts to ease the strain on their facilities. Rural Maintenance, using its solar farm, had reduced the power outages in Frankfurt from 4 hours per day to only 1.5. Local business owners, like Maloratu Motsuneng, say the longer outages are devastating to small businesses in an area where unemployment is higher than the national average.
Remember when there's load shedding, there's no signal. Remember when it's like you are incompetent basically, and you cannot run a business without a phone, you cannot run a business without internet. So that is the impact that we are really feeling now. And we cannot work in isolation as a business.
The CEO of Rural Maintenance, Chris Bosch, said the court ruling not only raised questions of regulations and laws, but highlighted a bigger problem.
I think what has sparked the outrage in South Africa is that people now realize that even if we have the money to put our own generation plant on the grid, then we still won't be able to use the electricity of that. We still have to reduce even further.
In a statement, Eskom said it welcomed the ruling, adding that it encouraged independent power producers to help alleviate the effects of load shedding in South Africa if they complied with regulations.
Fox News on Monday ousted prime-time host Tucker Carlson, whose slew of grievances and political theories about Russia and the January 6th insurrection had grown to divide the network in recent years and make him an influential force in GOP politics.
It's a surprise few saw coming. Tucker Carlson, primetime host of the controversial right-wing channel Fox News, has left the network. Watched by over 3 million Americans, the pundit was famous for his pro-Trump and anti-abortion stances. He also consistently drew headlines for controversial coverage, including most recently airing tapes from the January 6th Capitol insurrection to minimize the impact of the deadly attack. On Monday, the outlet issued a press release saying they and Carlson agreed to part ways and thanked the anchor for his work. They provided no explanation as to the reason for the parting of ways.
Sounds to me like it was Tucker's decision to leave, just based on the few details that are coming out now. I could be wrong, but this is obviously related to the Dominion settlement in some way.
The news comes just days after the channel paid a huge settlement to end a defamation case against them. Fox agreed to pay almost $800 million to settle a lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems over the network's airing of false claims following the 2020 presidential election in a bid to avoid an explosive trial.
Today represents a ringing endorsement for truth and for democracy.
Before signing this agreement with Dominion, along with other Fox hosts, Tucker Carlson's texts and emails were made public as part of this lawsuit. Some showed doubts over their own network's allegations about Dominion's role in the supposed election fraud, and some showing Carlson criticizing Trump.
An intense solar storm has the northern lights gracing the skies farther south than usual. Earth felt the brunt of the storm on Sunday, according to NOAA, with forecasters warning operators of power plants and spacecraft of the potential for disruption.
Sunday evening, after sundown, the sky lit up in France, turning green, gold, and purple, the hallmarks of an exceptional Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights. Professional and amateur photographers rushed to capture the moment.
It's moving. It's exciting to see a phenomenon that is still quite rare here in France. And even more amazing, it's the second time this year.
The Northern Lights occur when electrically charged particles accelerate down the Earth's magnetic field lines and collide with gas atoms in the upper atmosphere, producing small flashes of light.
It's a big arc. We call it the auroral arc, which can go down quite low when the sun is very active and when it sends us a lot of charged particles. And that's where you can see it, even from the north of France.
Sometimes the sun's solar flares are so powerful that the phenomenon can be seen in many parts of the world. In the U.S., stargazers in Missouri and Montana received a rare treat when the hallmark colors lit up the night sky. Parts of the U.K., too, were able to see the shimmering waves of light. But the most vibrant display may have occurred in Russia's Ulyanovsk region. Footage captured by a local resident shows the Aurora Borealis in full glory as the colors change, seeming to dance across the night sky. Scientists say auroras can last anywhere from an hour or less to several days.
It's 28 minutes before 8 o'clock. We've come to the end of our international news. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who pays for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light the urgent need for adequate supply oxygen supplies as well as medical equipment to save lives in countries all over the world. In response to the situation, many countries, including Eswatini, they are taking actions to scale up the supply of oxygen. It has also become necessary for the Ministry of Health in Eswatini to determine the bed capacity, oxygen production, delivery equipment, consumables for oxygen therapy, and facility infrastructure that are pertinent to the provision of oxygen therapy. Health Minister Lizinkosi joins me now to further discuss this development and help us better understand the oxygen production, delivery, and monitoring capacity of Eswatini's healthcare system. Nuna Nkosi, it's always lovely having you on the show. I think over the past all the shows we've had responses from people even on social media. Some of them are even texting me on my personal capacity. They really appreciate as the minister kutophendula imibuto labanayo nanathi lesinayo mayelana nemisebenzi nendawo nelitiko lo mhla sikhulumisa indzaba ye-oxygen supply kuphetfwa kwemkhuhlane COVID-19. I've just highlighted ukuthi kuphocelele health system yonke yalakangwane as well as other countries kuthi itibuke tindzaba te-oxygen supply kuthi sime kanjani lapha. I think the first thing nje kungaba highlighter before sifike kulama findings sisibuke nje indzaba yokuthi lapha even lakangwane ingafiki COVID-19 indzaba te-oxygen besime kuphi etindzabeni te-oxygen supply.
Good morning and thank you for inviting me again. Namhla sikhulumisa a part of imithi an essential part ye health response. Noma ngabe umuntu usuke engotini emgwaqweni kudzingeka oxygen, noma ngabe wembi uyabeleka bese iyashoda kudzingeka oxygen ema theater endzaweni letinengi. But live solo labakhona besingamproduce sine oxygen lekusho kwekuthi tonke letibhedlela nema health facilities besithenga from the private sector. Private sector isilethela oxygen bese siyamthenga simfaka la etibhedlela lapho simdinga khona. Nakusetshenzwa normally sasicabanga ukuthi lokho kuyinafu. Ngoba i-private sector beyikhona kusilethela sithenge kuyo singihulumende nabaku-private nabo bonke bathenge kuyo. Kodwa-ke ngesikhathi sa-COVID ikakhulu in the second wave bitter weather an onslaught. I think live nalingakhumbula ngilapha sasafarisha khona the highest casualties. Kanze ukuthi oxygen is the key therapy lekufuneka ibe khona, and we just did not have enough. I-private sector nayo had the limitations ngekuthi lela bathenga khona abasakhona ukubathengisela sekubekwe imithetho emaveni kwekuthi ngoba nabo bamdinga lo oxygen nabo bayadinga le tinto lethe oxygen, so kwasilimata kakhulu. So you can imagine kuthi ngaleso sikhathi letho sasibuka two things. Asifuna imithi, sikufuna lokunye, sasifuna i-oxygen nema vaccines, those two things.
See, ngiyakhumbula, I think it was around June 2022, mani litiko letempilo nihlongota indzaba ye National Medical Oxygen Situational Analysis Report. Leyo report letawuba nema comprehensive findings ekutheni what do you need to respond to urgently as a ministry ku-addresseni yona indzaba ye-oxygen. Talk to me about how you went about ku-addressa le simo lesi, and ngiyasibona livela kangwane ninetifundza letine letonke tinayo ma-health facilities. How do you go about kutfwala your data?
Okay. Kubalekile ukuthi ngalesikhathi sisa-responda sasikhuluma nema-partners ethu sidinga oxygen, so everybody was willing to help but singakafiki. But we had one partner on the ground le NGO le ranisha sibhedlela, and bakalu commission were able through their partners kucala bafake oxygen plant lenkulu sisalungisa. Nasisebenda ke sisebenda na Medicine Sans Frontiers, Doctors Without Borders. Bebavele nasiqhamuka at the beginning of 2021 basikudingeka i-oxygen bakwati ke lokho umsebenzi wabo nje bebasebenza nahulumende basibambisa, but lokwabehlula ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi kwakungatravelwa kunga-importwa bangakhona kuletha bonjiniyela. So sathi sisenda le assessment babe baqalile nabo bazama kwakha ema-oxygen plants. Kwase kufuna sikwenziwe a proper assessment la even kwekuthi njengoba kunanayo i-plant lekhona leseyakhiwa ngulu commission nalawa lamabili akhiwa ngu-MSF eshiselweni, yini imbamba lesikudingako ku-oxygen even ko onke lama regions. Lokwavela ngalesikhathi sisa-responda, one ukuthi angeke sirely, ngeke sikhona ukuthi singathi munye supplier ngasiniketa oxygen. Kwesibili ukuthi umuntu nakadzinga oxygen nyalo, you cannot be traveling long distances usathe hour uyofika kuyo. So i-assessment sesiyenda ke nabo WHO, siyenda nalabanye ama-partners ethu across the country kwekuthi yini lesingekako. Sabuka ke i-bed capacity elive, imibheds lekhona kuhulumende, etibhedlela letikhona, etibhedlela bekufuna sifocus kuto kakhulu kuleti nkulu kakhulu njengembabane lebona over 20,000 webantfu ngenyanga, ne-RFM lebona over 12,000 webantfu ngenyanga. But ngesikhathi sa-COVID sasesakhe emavuso lona 118 beds ilubombo referral, noma ngabe sasiyifakile sizama kwakha i-oxygen plant lapho, it was not enough. So this was a very, very comprehensive assessment. Let's say in each region akube nendlela ukuthi bathole oxygen masinyana. Target to the big hospitals by themselves, but in each region oxygen letawusheshe iphakame. So lo sikhuluma nema-donors ethu njengoba senda le assessment sibaniketa nekuthi ke i-backup system itawuchamukaphi. Ilu-commission le-plant yabo inkulu kakhulu le beyi-producer oxygen itawukhona ku-backup letinye tindzawo, but you cannot take that usutawusumna semkhuzweni utawufika nini khona. And that is some of the issues bekufuna ku-address ukuthi kunema-distances, kunemi-beds, so i-capacity ya-assesswa kwekuthi kutawufika.
So sathenza yona indzaba ye-bed capacity, I'm very interested ngoba mani khulumisa tindzaba temi-beds benikhuluma ngathi nikhuluma tinhlobo letintsathu temi-beds, was HDU, ICU and COVID-19 beds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nasi assessa lapho nakuvela iCovid-19. Kwasinga ukuthi ibhedlela tonke nelive lonke nje iplan yahulumende yenyuke kakhulu. Ngiko lokho kwathi nasisebenza ngoba sabuka lama facilities ahulumende ukuthi singawa expanda kangakanani very quickly, but le force ya COVID was pushing us as government ukuthi sende masinyane. So lo COVID-19 beds buka kakhulu emavuso trade center lesacela saniketwa yona ukuthi singayisebenzisa as response safaka 118 beds.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Lapho kunembeds high care saphinza sasonzetana oxygen but nje I response lenkulu lapho yayi cabanga nje usikwanga leso. And Ilubombo referral le beyina very few beds kwakhiwa liward leli lalisa 94 people enabo ICU. So lokuthi sisi COVID besendela ukuthi naku lesitabe sesiyakuvala.
Okay.
Emva kwesikhathi lele sifuna siresponde ngiyabekisa nje ka commission base ba benda emathende bafaka emathende kungeda beds. So it is all of those beds. Kusho si embaba nesibhedlela uyathi musisine outpatient department enkulu yavalwa completely yafaka imibhedzi yaka COVID. So nalapho sase siya kuto tonke tibhedlela senda show ukuthi kune isolation space ukuthi noma bed ICU but am isolate umuntu bamnika oxygen bam transfer properly.
Yeah. Usatsinza yona leyo ndzaba leyo minister, I'm also interested in finding out ngoba uma sikhuluma nge-bed count utitsinza leti nombolo tishoko. Yes, it helped us respond to the pandemic at the time, but you highlighted ekuqaleni khathi usivakashelela lihlelweni ukuthi this also compels us ukuthi sibe prepared for any other outbreaks la ngaba khona or even le COVID-19 lengapheli completely. Engabe do we have programs to ensure ukuthi we continue to stack up or beef up our bed count, nokuthi capacitate kangakanani in terms of the oxygen supply equipment? I'm reminded, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Nania Eswatini with MSF. I think they were also donating supplies at Inzabentabo of oxygen. Sakubega now my measures so we continue to beef up our oxygen supply equipment. Sisambe kangakanani kuleyo development leyo.
Sisihamba umgamo omse kakhulu kuleyo development leyo ngoba COVID usifunzise ukuthi i-preparedness yethu funa ibe njani. While singeke sigcine le mibhedzi le extra leyakhiwa letinza njengabo mavuso kufuna tibiyele tisebenze nje wabe tisebenda, but sesi-ready nyalo kuneplan levele lakhiwa ukuthi sibe ne-readiness. Uhulumende waziwaboleka imali baka i-World Bank yasiniketa i-grant ukuthi silakhele lo plan lelena sibe ne-readiness. So si-ready manje with lama regional nangizane and the national plan yaka oxygen lese ikhona manje lekhombisako ukuthi eshiselweni nje baka MSF besikwethula 2 weeks ago but kwaqala 2021 kwakhiwa wavele kwaqala kwasebenza inhlangano health center ine oxygen plant, but these are small plants that supply the health center. Ingakhona kufaka emabhodlela emikise kubo Mathenjeni health center nalokunye iyakhona kuphamba. Ihlathikulu hospital ine plant already working. Lekusho ukuthi kulamani zethu laba wakhona before ishiselweni region nje noma kungendekani they are ready. Oxygen bangayithola masinyane kugijinye.
Sorry, ngawufuna lokuthi singene kulama stakeholders maybe towards the end of our discussion. Njengoba ithinza eshiselweni MSF has been quite very visible there.
Angikubeke upfront ukuthi iMSF was established to respond to my emergencies. So bona bebasebenza na hulumende the whole time. Siplana senda konke MSF ukhona la event. MSF wafika 16 years ago. Usite kakhulu nakufika MDR-TB yakhumbula sehulumende nakhona wa increase ema bed spaces. Bafike basifundisa basita ukuthi no phela lokho noma kuthathelwa na so fast you can do it at home. So you can imagine nakufika ku COVID. Because they knew they needed oxygen, so bacala benda lo msebenzi. So yes.
It's a very interesting development in Zabai MSF in responding to the tuberculosis prevalence that was very high at the Eswatini region at the time. I think Minister in Zabai human resource in Zabale le Tony. But at the same time, this is while we can look at the glass half empty perspective, I think let's just focus on this glass half full perspective for now. At Tseni, during the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously you were highlighting we just might be short-staffed, and the medical professionals themselves, but abasiko immune to COVID-19. They have to work. Nabo batayitfola and sawabona in my headlines. Bokwala bayitfola. I can imagine you're dealing with a short-staffed medical professionals number. COVID-19 during the process, and yet you were still able to respond to COVID-19. Talk to me about the human resource during the time. Going forward, how do we address this one? Because that's the interests, by the way, from the viewers at home. I could see, we do need to beef up our human resource.
Thank you. That is a big issue. Nangabe una a sudden upsurge, where would see nihlala staff lesingaka, and the upsurge shows the staff nasibe khona sibe and lesakwenda lapho ukuthi sibiyele kuhulumende wonke, cabinet ne parliament kucelwa ukuthi kwenyuswe staff. Hulumende was able to hire nearly 700, I think it was 695 of we call surge staff. Kusho ukuthi ngenhlanhla yethu la even lekuyinhlanhla lembi for labanye bantu ukuthi we have ema-college nema-university la train abo-nurse, for instance, but asikhona ukuba-absorba bonke. Sinabodokotela labahlethi labamele ngena kubo-internship lababuya etikolweni. Kuleso sikhathi leso sakhona ukuthi sase-700 of those people ukuthi bakhona ukusibambisa, batrainwe, ba-deploy masinyane. Nalama partners ethu, by the way, now beba ne-search staff lekufuna ukuthi ingene ngaso sikhathi. Inzaba ye-response ku-emergency ukuthi uhulumende ufuna active very fast. Ngoba i-emergency yonke ilidishwa nguhulumende. Ufuna active very fast, and in this case ngiyabonga e-cabinet, ngiyabonga ku-parliament for i-support. But lokubalekile, you touch on a very sensitive issue yokuthi siyaqala siresponda to something la kufuna staff sithi protected khona kakhulu ukuze baqhubeke. It was amazing just how health workers, bodokotela, bonesi ba volunteer ukuthi we realize ukuthi lokhu kulikhona, but we volunteer to start the response. Baningi laba volunteers sisalungisa sisathola ama cases lawe ekucala lewe fika kucala. Na ungakhumbula lekucaleni nalabo PPE bekude. Our stock lebesihlalele ukuthi sine stock yabona nangibuta nje kulabaka EPR bengithi ngiyabuta si stock base hayi sinaso stock, 5,000 units by at the height of the response alamasudu besekusebenzisa in one day. So that was the other complexity ukuthi sisabangene, and we needed to make sure they are protected. We don't get a chance enough kubonga kakhulu labangena ekucaleni ba volunteer bafunzela etulo ngoba nobody knew. Sase sakha i-COVID academy ngoba this was a new disease worldwide. Sendela ukuthi any new information siyakhona kufunzisa sihambise fast. Luckily digital space yakhula kakhulu ukuthi sikhona ukuthi sichumane nema-regions, sichumane nema-teams, siwafunzise sibatshele ukuthi yini lokusha lokuvikile responda njani. That is where leadership hulumende was so critical. When they sure ukuthi we can respond enough, singafika enough. Ngaphandle kwaloko nje ku-search staff dawukhumbula ukuthi ngetulu kwale dibhedlela lesekufaka ama-isolation space, hulumende wafaka emathende everywhere to test. Saphinze sakha ema-centers outside of ema-clinics anjengamalagwane, enhlangano baka MSF bayenda, kamanzini sayakha eNgwane Park. Ngokuthi umuntu nakafika batawusi bangamtesta baqale kumtreat. Sagcina sesiwende ema-treatment centers ngoba bekunesidingo lesikhulu ngaphandle kwalamathende that were everywhere. Kwakunesidingo lesikhulu ukuthi kube netinzawo dekutreata nalama teams lecaleni. We had the luxury yokuthi sikhokhe bodokotela nabonesi baye emakhaya abantu bayobalaphela khona babanakele khona. But as dinombolo tenyuka kakhulu bese kuba likhona, we still try to do that, but bese kuba likhona lokuthi siyofika lapha.
And it's amazing how, for umuntu nje ohlalelela lapha ekhaya angayibuka i-COVID-19 ayibuke njengalomunye umkhuhlane lo wafika nje. Kanti it affected almost all departments of the healthcare system. And I'm saying this intentionally. I want us to talk about EPR and CMS after this. Naskhuluma nge EPR, your emergency preparedness and response. I think your situational report, the situational, it highlights the work of the EPR as, mostly it takes place in my ambulance. In my ambulance, I'm reminded again, we don't have enough sufficient ambulances in the country, but we do see some of the stakeholders baphosalitshas bivane ngama-ambulances siyalibona litiko lihlale likhala tina intengo nyama ukuthi yabona singasekelwa la kuleti ndzaba tema-ambulance. I-ambulance nasithi emergency preparedness and response, and then we say it takes place mostly in ambulances. I can imagine myself ngiyalimala nyalo ngiyangena ku-ambulance, I need air. Again, oxygen doubting ukuthi lapho bang supply ngayo. Do we have enough ambulances in the country for if my situation is lanjena and they are simultaneously in our 4 regions?
No. We were lucky one kwekuthi akhona ama-ambulances la bese ayavela athengwa through letimali letabuleka World Bank,
okay,
and ama-partners ethu a-donator. And kulama partners labo act outside of government, ilu commission yaba ne search lenkulu ema-ambulances la khona kuphuma nawo ajoyine lawa hulumende kwekuthi kurespondwe. But i-issue yema-ambulances generally even sibulawa ngilokuthi one mancane nanyalo nje noma ngabe siresponda kuma-emergencies emgwaqweni kubomake la sebafuna kubeleka nawo konke lokho, we do not have enough. No. But even though ngesikhathi se-COVID kukhule kakhulu lokho, and it helped ukuthi i-EPR ngaleso sikhathi asebende ngoba bese usikungaba ne-emergency leba i-national disaster bese kungena i-NDMA, the National Disaster Management Agency. So sebasebendela phasi kwabo so that bantu nabafuna kushaya bakhona kushayela ka-national disaster bashayele ngalapha, and working with them was a blessing. Ngoba bekusho ukuthi nalama processes ahulumende lahla sibambelela asebendeka faster ngoba sesisebenda ku-emergency. No, we still don't have enough ambulances, but we did have at that time saba ne upsurge in ambulances kwekuthi basingetela siyasebenda. Again, those are some of the invisible teams lekuthi nakusetshenzwa singababoni kahle, and they worked a lot. Beba responda baya ekucaleni kuyolanza abantu, and even around bantu nasebashonile sekufuna bawungcwatshwa ngoba lo mkhuhlane awungawuthatha ngisho since strom.
Yes.
So they did a lot of work ekumuvisheni abantu nekufundzisa nokunaka nekumonitor ukuthi kungcwatshwa ngetindlela letifanele. So that's another team lo usesishayele baka MSF Tandla, but mina sibashayele Tandla nabo kakhulu.
Yeah. Speaking of Lama stakeholders, briefly, I've been notified because we've run out of time. We don't have time. But highlighting those stakeholders, especially from March 2020 to April 2023, there is a report. But if you can just list them, Honorable Minister, some of those stakeholders, just list them and not delve deeper into what they really did, but just, to Kuba appreciate.
Okay. Kukhona ama-stakeholders la khuluma behind dimali nako konke nema-supplies. Stakeholders esikhulu of course ngihulumende. Hulumende did a fantastic job lapho. I-World Health Organization lebe is-leader isiniketa ne-information, is-leader ku-science, so that sokhona kuba na-science. Ema-teams ethu labo a-predictor, i-university nema-epidemiologists ethu laqala lecaleni setting shona munye umuntu nasakhuluma ne-cabinet ukuthi nakulokudako sikubuka ukuthi kutawehla kanje lawo ma-predictions abenziwa and ba-volunteer basendele ma-dashboards nako konke. PEPFAR ekucaleni kule first wave ngoba PEPFAR udeli HIV and AIDS, but by the time sofika ku second wave ngilabacala bafaka khona imali bayimemetela le mali ngileyo mali ke leyasita ilu commission ukuthi sukume ngoba PEPFAR works only through NGOs, mali yabo iya directly lapho, even if batosita live kulokwe live bakwenda differently. I-global fund just stood out in many different ways. Global fund namanje setawusakhela the oxygen backup letaba central medical stores, itawusakhela incinerator le updated letaba insha
Is it?
letaba yes lena
that, yeah.
new technology bakhomitha tonke lo dinto ngaleso sikhathi basicashela staff basendela lokunenge ehulumende weTaiwan we cannot thank them enough. Uyathi ukuthi tinto labatenda we way beyond anything imaginable. Kufika nje iPPE yayita ngemikhumbi every week kwakhona lokufikako, but they flew in ventilators now kumbula ventilators we needed them so much.
Critically.
Kulo 85 sasimsebenzisa at the height of the emergency, 70 of them had come from Taiwan. Bedside monitors, bagcina sebasilethele ngisho i-capacity yokuproducer manufacture medical mask.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say enough. Usenga i-Cash Foundation nakusiwa nje kube nengodi bese kuba one got sent outside of government, but i-commit ukuthi anything kwakungathi nje anything that was needed. Now ucabanga ama-rapid test lebakhona abefika ngabo hundreds of thousands a week i-Cash Foundation enda lokho. Nasifuna kwenda isearch ama-capacities emibhedze i-Cash Foundation enda lokho. Nasekufika ama-vaccines aseda lama-vaccines. Nakhona bahleti nathi ngoba lo-office laminisa lase-advisory team. Bebahlala kuleyo advisory team sibuka the overall situation. Nakufuneka info sikhulume nabo basilethela the ultra cold fridges labawaletha before kufike la ka UNICEF benda sure ukuthi i-Cash Foundation they spent a lot of money. Ngiyabona i-MSF sesikhulumile ngayo, Africa CDC sikhulume ngayo, i-Look Commission they did a fantastic job la baka UNICEF uhulumende wase Cuba. You know, besinabodokotela la beKuba bebang 24 25 laba bangasakhona ikhamba. Sasibase kune upsurge sika bodokotela bathumela 20 doctors.
Okay.
Mavoso would not have happened without them. Nala ma spaces beswa creator la endleleni without that additional. IMorocco niyakhumbula kwafika indiza igcwele iPPE nemithi Equatorial Guinea yeta dosita by uhulumende weNdiya wasilethela the first 20,000 enanzana. UK aid lokubalekile bathumela abodokotela ama-specialists in ICU nekuthi basithumelele ema-specialist ema-biomedical engineers kutobuka le situation yabo-oxygen kusenda njani equipment yethu ukuthi senda njani alongside laba baka-WHO na WHO sent those. I-UAE i-business Eswatini sisebenze nayo nanyalo sisebenza nayo kusukela lecaleni ku-testa neku-vaccinata besebenza nayo HIV and AIDS but baqhubeka i-World Vision.
Minister, I'm so sorry we've run out of time, but there's a lot of
it's a long list. It's a long list, but it talks to the amount of work that had to be done behind the scene to bring these people on board.
And evidently so, Minister, on Monday when I COVID-19 report only 6 people are currently admitted, 0 new deaths, and that has been the case for a while now. So we thank Leo Response, Leo Minister. Thank you so much for joining us in Mbugele Makaya. We've come to the end of our program. We've even overlapped. Thank you for staying with us. See each other tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you.